Ilia Topuria just dropped a bombshell in his latest interview. And now, Dana White has confirmed it to the stakes of the upcoming welterweight main event between Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena are way higher than anyone expected. According to Topuria, the winner of this fight will determine who he faces next at International Fight Week, either Islam Makhachev or Charles Oliveira. That's not just hype, it's now officially in play. And the MMA world suddenly finds itself in a bizarre but exciting situation where the future of a super fight is literally riding on Belal Muhammad's performance. Let that sink in. All eyes will be on Belal. He's not just fighting to win, he's carrying the hopes of what might be the biggest fight of the year. Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. This is the kind of stylistic and legacy matchup that MMA fans have been begging for. Islam has run through the lightweight division, and Ilia just conquered featherweight. Now, with Jones potentially out and no clear-cut blockbuster on the schedule, the UFC needs this fight. If Belal beats Jack, we're getting it. If he doesn't, everything gets thrown in the air again. It's wild to think about the pressure that's now on Bella's shoulders. The crowd might not be chanting his name normally, but for this one, the entire arena might actually be behind him just to will that Topuria versus Makhachev fight into existence. It'll feel like we've entered some weird parallel dimension where everyone's rooting for Belal, not because they love his style, but because the stakes have never been this high. He wins, we get the fight. He loses, and the train might derail. But let's not completely overlook Jack Della Maddalena. If Jack gets past Belal, that also sets up something intriguing. It would mean Jack's skill set, striking, scrambling, defensive wrestling, was enough to shut down one of the most relentless pressure wrestlers in the UFC. That would make a potential fight between him and Islam fascinating. If Bella's wrestling doesn't work and Jack gets the KO, that says a lot about how he might match up with Islam. Jack is bigger. He's slick on the feet. And if he proves hard to hold down, he becomes a real threat. Still, the Topuria matchup is what has everyone's attention. Islam versus Ilia is a true super fight in every sense. Two dominant champions, both calculated killers, meeting at a catchweight or new division. It would be massive. And International Fight Week is the perfect stage for it. According to Dana White, the UFC is pushing hard to make this happen. But the belt situation complicates things a little. The co-main event for that card is reportedly going to be Alexander Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France for the flyweight title. That means the main event has to be a title fight too. So if Ilia is fighting Charles Oliveira instead of Islam, there has to be gold on the line. That's where it gets interesting. Early reports suggest that if Ilya fights Charles, it'll be for the vacant lightweight title, not an interim belt. Ilya himself has said he won't fight for anything less than the real thing. So, if Islam does move up to 172 challenge for the welterweight strap that opens the door for Ilya versus Oliveira for the official lightweight crown, that's a huge fight on its own. But it definitely doesn't have the same sizzle as Topuria versus Makhachev. There's even another twist. Belal recently said in an interview that he'd be open to moving up to middleweight if it helps Islam chase his goal of becoming a double champ. According to Belal, he just wants to defend his welterweight belt twice before making that move. If that happens, Islam gets a clean path to the 170-pound belt, and Ilya could dominate lightweight. That means we could end up with 3 super fights by the end of the year. Ilya versus Charles. Islam versus the welterweight champ. And maybe Ilya versus Islam later on if they both stay undefeated across 2 divisions. But first, it all hinges on what happens when Belal Muhammad steps in against Jack Della Maddalena. The stakes couldn't be higher. One fight will decide the course of the UFC's biggest potential matchups of the year. So, what do you guys think? Would you rather see Islam stay and fight Ilya? Or are you more hyped about the idea of him moving up to welterweight and chasing a second title? Either way, this fight just got a whole lot more interesting.